Hello everyone, my name is Percy number 6, and I recently watched the newest incarnation of Bob the Builder on Netflix. It was announced that it was going to be removed this month, so I realized it's either now or never for me to watch it. So that's exactly what I did. I watched it. From what I understand, the first season has 52 episodes, and of those 52, I watched 26, so not every episode. But after 26 episodes, you have a pretty good idea of what the show is about. Now, I don't know about you, but as a kid growing up, Bob the Builder was definitely one of my favorite television shows. And I'll be honest, it didn't disappoint. This new season, this new reboot did not disappoint whatsoever. There are a lot that I'd like to talk about, and if I could talk about everything, it'd probably be more of a podcast than a review because it could be at least an hour. So maybe I'll do another one of these someday. But for now, I want to talk about a couple things. We'll start out with talking about the new shapes of the vehicles and characters in Bob the Builder. So, one of the things that made people very upset about this new Bob the Builder was the fact that all the vehicles we've come to know and love in Bob the Builder had changed, and it wasn't just a little change. It wasn't like the change from when they became a CGI series a few years back now. No, this was a big change. The vehicles changed, Bob himself changed. It was a completely different Bob the Builder, and I remember my first reaction was probably like most of you. What? How could they do that? That looks so bad, blah, blah, blah. But the funny thing is, as I watched this season, I didn't really think about it too much. I never thought about it with Bob and Wendy. I never did. Till I start thinking about this review and realizing, wow, they changed Bob the Builder. I never thought about how Bob and Wendy were different from the old Bob and Wendy. And honestly, I kind of like how the new Bob and Wendy are. And that's the same with the vehicles. Scoop, Muck, Dizzy, Rolly, and Lofty. I think maybe the only one I could see like, oh, they didn't really do a good job was Rolly. But honestly, you look at these are all much more realistic to what you and I could see on an average day if we ran to a construction site, or maybe if we were just in a part of town that was getting worked on. I mean, these are the vehicles you would see. Rolly is such an outdated steamroller. It made no sense really why they made him that way. So this update, while it definitely looks different and he looks the most different, it kind of makes sense. Dizzy really doesn't look that different. Mach doesn't look that different either. Both of them are just kind of updated to today's standards. Lofty's a little bit different, but not too much. And honestly, I kind of like how Lofty is. He is way more realistic, and I personally really like Lofty's design. And Scoop, really, when you get down to it, he's a little bit different. But in terms of his build, he's very similar to what the Scoop is of old. So really, when it comes down to this, I actually don't mind the changes they made in characters. I think the changes in characters were actually a good thing, believe it or not. And now let me quickly talk about voice actors. Now, for the record, I grew up on the US Bob the Builder. That is what I watched. I watched the US Bob the Builder as a kid, and when I just watched on Netflix, that was the Bob the Builder I watched. That is important for what I'm about to say because I'm talking about voice actors. For the most part, the voice actors weren't that bad. I thought Bob's voice actor did a really good job, and honestly, he's very similar to the original Bob the Builder in the US one, and I thought he did a good job. Dizzy, maybe it's because Dizzy was one of Wendy and Dizzy. They were the only two, I'm pretty sure, who kept the same voice actor the entire time of the original series. But Dizzy's voice, it was kind of hard to adjust, but she wasn't on too much, and it was fine with me. Uh, Rolly, I thought he was fine. Lofty, I thought he was fine. Really, none of these voice actors were like, wow, this is a really good voice actor. Scoops, I was up and down. I think for the most part, I did like Scoops. I think it fit his new character, which I'll be getting into a little bit. Uh, but I think the only two that I really disliked were Wendy and Muck. I never understood Muck's voice. They changed that in Project Build It. I never liked it in Project Build It, and now in this updated CGI series, I do not like it. And Wendy's, I understand it's a Downton Abbey person they have. I don't watch the show, so I can't tell you who it is. But I understand they have that, and they probably can't afford to have a US Wendy and use her, or they just want to use her because she's the big name. Either way, I felt Wendy's voice was just so it just didn't make sense to what was happening with the show. It was a US show and you have this UK voice. It just doesn't make sense. I really disliked Wendy's voice. She was definitely my least favorite. I mean, as a person, she's probably fine, the voice actor, but for the show, it just didn't fit at all. I didn't like it. And as for Muck's voice, as I mentioned, I don't understand the change. It just is such a weird voice. Why can't we give Muck a normal voice? And why can't Muck be a girl? I don't understand that. But that's I'm digressing. That wasn't too bad. Those were the only two I really had complaints when it came to voice acting. As for character, I think Bob and Wendy are very similar to the original versions of themselves. I think the same goes for Dizzy, Rolly, and kind of Muck. Muck was more about the mud than what he is now. That's still getting used to saying he. But those two, or those three, excuse me, weren't that different. Lofty, he was more shy in the other series. He's willing to stand up. He's not like the entire time, which is kind of nice, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing that. He still has some shyness. It's just not the same type of shy that he had in the original series. But then we get to Scoop. Scoop's the one that changed the most. I already think looking at the original Bob the Builder, Scoop was really, I mean, when you come down to it, he was like the guy in charge of Bob's team, and it really hasn't changed. It's not as on display as it has been in the past, but when you look at these Bob the Builder episodes, you can almost guarantee that Bob and Scoop will be a part of whatever the storyline is. Each machine, each person too, they all have their chance of being a main character for at least an episode. But Scoop and of course Bob seem to always find a way to get into it, even if it's a small role. But honestly, I did not think I'd like Scoop's new role. Hearing that he wasn't going to be the leader of the team like he was, the guy that always started, can we fix it? He's the one that he would get in trouble, but it wasn't often. It was kind of rare we would see Scoop get in trouble. Now it's almost all the time that he's getting in trouble. And I actually kind of like it. I thought he was really good. When I talk about comedic element, he was one of the funniest characters of the show. I'll tell you, my favorite part of this show was there's an episode with Lofty in a giraffe, and he ended up letting the giraffe free by accident, and then he ended up being the one that saved the giraffe, brought it back. And it was new to town, so they were deciding a name, and Bob's like, how about we call it Lofty the Giraffe since he rescued it? And they're all like, oh, that's a good idea. And then as it starts zooming out as the episode ends, Scoop's like, Scoop's a good name too. I thought that was hilarious watching that. And as a whole, that kind of describes Scoop's character. He's not, I don't want to say self-centered, selfish or whatever it is, but kind of has that attitude, but he's not rude. He's usually the one to cause trouble, kind of like what Spud was, except when it was Spud, people usually seem to be mad at Spud. It's not the case for Scoop. Scoop's always apologetic. He's sorry. He fixes the problem one way or another. I really enjoyed Scoop. He was my favorite character in the original series, and he's definitely my favorite character in today's series too. Like I said, he was a very funny character. I laughed at his parts a lot, probably more than anyone else on the show. And as a whole, I mean, the show really, it's built around Bob the Builder, of course, but he is at number two, and I really like that. Now, what surprised me a lot was we didn't see Farmer Pickles, Travis, or Spud. I figured they would return. They've been focal points, especially Spud, throughout so much of Bob the Builder. And like I said, they kind of replaced Spud with Scoop in that regard. But I was really expecting them to be back. I was disappointed that they haven't returned. Not like they will never return, but they have yet to return, so the chances are not high that they do come back. I was honestly really disappointed. I enjoyed those characters, Spud especially, and I think the show misses that. But like I said, with Scoop, they do a good job replacing that. Uh, so it's disappointing that they're not there, but it's okay. The show can get by without them. As for the cast of characters themselves, It's kind of different. The original Bob the Builder was the seven. It was Bob, Wendy, and the five machines. Now it's not that case anymore. It's Bob, Wendy, I'd say five or six. Bob, Wendy, Scoop, Muck, Lofty, and then you could argue either way for Leo. I'd probably lean more towards he is a main character, but I can see you making an argument that he's not. I do like the addition of Leo. He's not the greatest character, and I guess when it comes down to it, I probably prefer Spud over him, but he's not bad. It's kind of nice. He's supposed to be younger. The machines are usually the ones that the children are supposed to relate to, so it's nice to have a guy who isn't like Spud where he causes trouble, but he'll have accidents. He'll fix it one way or another. I think that's a good character that kids can relate to personally. There's so much I want to talk about, so that's why I'm kind of uh, just talking about certain things for a minute or two. I want to get a lot of things across before I give my final verdict. So, one last thing I'd like to go over is the comparison in general with the shows. When you switch from what they had in the original series to CGI, I mean, it's almost 20 years later, there's a lot of things they can do now that they couldn't do then. About midway through watching this, there's 13. They split these up into 13 episodes. Within the episodes, there's two actual episodes. In between the episodes, you see a music video, usually a Meet the Team or Learning with Leo. You also see Scoop and Bob, which this is usually a very funny part, them talking about machines, buildings, types of things you work with, like concrete, cement, so many interesting things that as a kid I would have loved to see. That would have been so much fun, especially because I could go out and if I ever saw anything these things, I knew I would have been excited for them. I think that's a great feature of the show that they were missing last time. Great addition. But that's how an average episode is. The original Bob the Builder, let's just compare the episode parts of it. The difference is they can do projects that they couldn't in there. They did a snow episode. That was the last episode I watched. They did an episode with snow. And while they did have a couple of those in Bob the Builder, it was just a couple. They couldn't do that many. The original Bob the Builder, like one of the episodes I watched, there was one where Travis and Scoop raced each other. What's kind of missing from this Bob the Builder, which can be good or bad, is every episode I watched, it involved them building something. And while it is nice, it stays more towards the focus of the show, which is Bob being a builder. You do kind of miss those old episodes where not necessarily something building was going on, but it was a nice plot. It was nice to see Travis and Scoop race each other. It was just an interesting thing to do. You don't see that anymore. And I think it goes both ways. There's good with that being gone, there's bad with that being gone. The fact is, they can do projects they could never do before. They've built bridges. They would have had a very difficult time doing that in the original series. They've done a lot of things. They've had this movie screen they built, a lot of things that they just wouldn't have been able to do 20 years ago for many reasons. So that's good, that's bad. That's like the main comparison about the episodes. But in general, it's the same thing. It's not like the thing. I'll be honest. My favorite Bob the Builder was Project Build It. It had a plot. It kind of all related back while at the same time you could skip through the seasons of Project Build It and you wouldn't miss too much. However, it'd be like, why is all this here when it wasn't here before? Like, you see Sunflower Valley get built throughout the series. In the original Bob the Builder, and the same with this one, really, I could pick any episode from any season of the original Bob the Builder and of the new Bob the Builder, and I wouldn't be lost. I could do the first season, the last season, a middle season, wouldn't be any different. Same thing with this one. So in that regard, it's the same. There's really not a lot that's different from the original Bob the Builder, despite what others might make you think. When it comes down to this, I want to compare the original Bob the Builder and this new CGI Bob the Builder. Not Project Build It, not Ready Steady Build. Those are they're the same Bob the Builder, but they're different. I just want to go with the original and the current. As I've mentioned, really there's not too much difference in terms of episodes. These episodes are very similar in structure. Really not a plot. The plot starts and ends in that episode. You don't see it carry over into other episodes, which I think's a bad thing, but it's a children's show. It's not meant to be like something you watch every Monday at 8 o'clock. It's not one of those, which is fine. But as I said, it'd be nice to have that. When I look at it, there's not really anything that's making me go one way or another. I went into watching Bob the Builder CGI. I didn't go into it with a negative mindset. I wanted to go into it and be like, give me what you have, show me what you have, and if I like it, I'll say it. If I don't, I'll say it. And I really enjoyed this. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Bob the Builder. I looked forward to coming home and watching Bob the Builder. It's been years since I could say that. And it was a lot of fun watching these episodes. I think they did a really good job. I really do. I think these projects, they took everything to another level. Uh, Scoop made the show for me. I thought he was such a hilarious character. I couldn't wait to hear what he had to say next. Uh, and I can't believe it. But by the end of watching these two series, I can honestly say I think the new Bob the Builder is better than the old Bob the Builder. That's right. I like the CGI Bob the Builder better than the original Bob the Builder. Sunflower Valley's Project Builder, that's still my favorite, but this was a really good series. I think the redesign of characters, even though I did like that, it still took some getting used to, and part of me still missed the old designs. But they made sense. I've already gone over how I thought they made sense, and I really liked everything they gave about this show. I think they did so many things that they did right in the original Bob the Builder, and they took it to a new level because they were able to build things at a new level. I can't believe, I still, even making this video, can't believe that I enjoy the new Bob the Builder as much as I do, but I really do, and I highly, highly, highly recommend you go view it. Watch it on TV. I'm pretty sure it's on PBS. I saw a DVD of it at my local library once. Go to your video store if you still have one of those. I'm sure you can find places to watch this because I highly recommend it. If you enjoy the original Bob the Builder, all I can say is this: go in it with the mindset of, I want to watch this before I make an opinion. Don't go in with a negative mindset that, oh, these are bad models, Bob doesn't look like that, blah, blah, blah. Just don't do that. I actually kind of prefer this Bob the Builder to the old one, which is, again, just crazy because even though I went in with the positive mindset, I didn't really expect myself to prefer it to the original Bob the Builder, but here I am. I cannot stress enough how good of a show this was. So go out and watch it. I highly, 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 highly recommend it. Uh, I, I, I just can't stress enough how much I recommend it. To me, I can't give a perfect score. So let's put it this way: the original Bob the Builder was probably an 8.5. This Bob the Builder was a 9, and Project Builder was a 9.5 in terms of how I enjoyed it out of a scale of 10. So with that in mind, that's all I have to say about this Bob the Builder. If you want me to go in depth and talk about a certain topic more, tell me in the comments and I'll look into doing that. This is kind of fun. I enjoy talking about this. It doesn't take too much to edit these videos. So yeah, tell me if you want me to go more in depth about a certain topic. I'd love to. And if you want me to talk more about Bob the Builder in general or show some of my Bob the Builder stuff, tell me that too. I've never done a Bob the Builder video on this channel, so I want to see if people will be open to more or if this should just be a one-time deal. But besides all of that, I don't have too much else left to say, but this is Percy number 6. Thank you for watching.